Hello and welcome to this month's program Center Stage, featuring impactful cooperative extension-led programs at the local, regional, and national levels. I'm Kelsey Buckler, the Impact Collaborative Assistant with the Extension Foundation. And today, Extension Foundation members have an exclusive opportunity to learn about the JUNTOS program. So I'm pleased to introduce today's program team leaders. We have Diana Urieta, Abby Torres, Bianca Wall, Scott Reed, Michael Nunez, and Ziamara Alcantara. So take it away, Team JUNTOS.
All right. Well, buenos dias a todos. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for joining this presentation. We're excited to have a conversation about an extension program that's been around for quite a while. So we're excited to share the JUNTOS story with you all. And before I get started, I'm going to share screen here. All right. All right, is everybody, do you see my notes too? Or do you see just my, all right, now let's see, I forgot, I think I can just switch it. Now do you see just my, yes, all right, awesome, thank you. So just to introduce myself, my name again is Diana Urieta. I am an extension specialist and senior director, co-developer of the JUNTOS program here at NC State University. But most importantly, I'm the daughter of immigrant parents. I am a proud Colombian American, and part of my real title is that I'm part of the JUNTOS team. So excited to be here with you today and talk a little bit about a program that started back in 2007 with really the way that a lot of programs in extension get started. And that's asking questions of the community. And at that time in North Carolina, the Latino Latinx community was growing. And so we had an opportunity to go to the community, do some focus groups, survey our young people, and really ask them, what is it? What's the need, the greatest need in your community? And what we found was education. And this was one of the first quotes that came from one of the fathers that was part of our focus groups. Families need to know the path to get their kids to college. And with that, we also found a couple of issues or problems, right? We're problem solvers in extension. When we were looking at the growing population that was happening in North Carolina and beyond, we were seeing that this particular population had the highest high school dropout rates. And so we needed to produce a change in that. As you all probably already know, and you've probably looked at your stats within your states and nationally, this is a growing young population in our country. So when you think about the fact that 25% of Latinos and Latinx youth are in our school systems, we know that it's a growing, flourishing population. And so for us, it's really been important to watch this growth and to continue to see the growth so that we can have success in the program that we've developed. And so you can see here the progression of growth that is expected within this particular community in North Carolina, and not just in North Carolina, but nationally. And so that's why we think JUNTOS, which means together, is an important program to have within extension. So what is JUNTOS? JUNTOS for us is really, we become a bridge and we get to be build bridges within our community partners with one goal in mind, and that's to produce knowledge and skills and resources to a population that says they want their young people to succeed academically. So for JUNTOS 4-H, it is about building bridges. Our 4 components that take us throughout the school year, and we continue to serve the young people beyond just 1 year. The first component is family engagement. And so that's how we started the program with workshops. We engaged the young person and the family, and we had a conversation about their educational goals and how to access the resources that were available to them. At the point that we engage them as a family, then we continue to embrace them as a community and introduce them to 4-H clubs. We continue to serve them as individual students through academic success coaching and mentoring. And then we complete the school year with a summer experience at the land-grant university, which we call the Academy or Juntos Academy. So within the past 15 years, we are celebrating our quinceañera this year. We're excited about that. We have seen a growing Juntos 4-H program. And this is a very humbling experience to have as someone who was part of the development process. But what I get to hear from leaders of these states is that why should we not have Juntos 4-H in our community? And it's been really encouraging to also learn with them on best practices as we continue to embrace and serve a growing population in all of our states. So impact, I think it's important for all of us to see what impact Juntos has shown in the past 15 years. And for us, we do pre and post surveys for parents and youth. And then we're also able to do focus groups where we've been able to grab a lot of information specifically from the parents. One thing that we do in North Carolina is we also look at school transcripts, and that has allowed us to see the progression academically that's taken place in the young people. So here you see a couple of stats that we get to see in North Carolina specifically. We want to build the confidence in the young person about graduating from high school. And then we also want them to feel like they belong. The number one reason students report they drop out of high school is because they don't feel like they belong in their campus. So this is a trajectory that we're changing in Juntos 4-H. For us, we are seeing a progression and improvement of grades, which is good for our school partners to see. And then just to be able to have the confidence to speak to teachers and advocate for themselves. And really, we've seen that through the academic success coaching that takes place in our communities. Other impact that we've seen, we see a trajectory of our students taking honors classes and AP classes. So we all know what that means, right? When we see our young people taking honors classes, AP classes, we know they're thinking about higher education. The other thing that we've seen specifically in our data from last year, even through the pandemic, is that about 72% of our kids did enroll in higher education. Over 80% are going to their local community colleges. So our partnerships with the community college is huge. We're also graduating 100% of our seniors year after year. So in North Carolina, we have graduated 100% of our seniors for the past 5 years. But one thing that we really are, it just really impacts us as we see when we have conversations with the parents who are leading the young people that we serve, is also the impact that we're making in them and empowering them as they become part of the solution and feel like they can be the advocates for the young person, for their children. And so you see here the difference in anxiety when they go, parents, when they go to the school, the anxiety levels that they feel pre-Juntos and post-Juntos, right? The anxiety that they felt and going just to talk to the teacher pre and post. And those are the things that for us, it really encourages us to know that we're making a change in that family and that they have the resources and skills to move forward with their goals. So this is a quote that we got this was probably in 2017 from a parent, very different from our first quote that I started with, where, really here you see the depth of what Juntos is able to do as we partner with the families. So Juntos improved our knowledge of college options and the college application process and improved our communication with our children. So if any of you have worked with immigrant families or you are an immigrant yourself, this quote here can have a lot of reflection on what our community goes through as they're going through the process of really engaging with the system to ensure that their kids have academic success. So that's Juntos in a nutshell. I want to really give the time to some of our Juntos alumni who are here with us today. And also part of our team is here today to talk about their experience as they've worked with the families so that you can get a full picture of the impact that Juntos 4-H has on a community.
All right. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. My name is Abby Mel, but you can call me Abby. I'm one of the program assistants with the Juntos program. And so I had the opportunity to work with Juntos back when I was at NC State, my undergrad, as a work study student for 4.5 years. And now I'm getting my master's in social work at the University of Washington in Seattle. And so I still do some part-time work with the program. So it gives me great pleasure to be here with y'all. We have an awesome panel. We have two of our students that are just amazing. And so with them being alumni, that basically means they went through our program as high school students for a number of years. And they graduated and they're now at NC State University. So we're very proud of them, seeing them grow and develop into amazing young professionals. And so we'll be kind of asking them a few questions just about their experience with Juntos. But first off, I'll let them introduce themselves. Michael and Xiomara, feel free to just share your year, your major, and anything else you want to share. I'll pass it to Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Nunez. I'm currently a junior going on senior here at NC State. My major is currently computer engineering, and one of the biggest goals that I have being at NC State is to have a more welcoming community, but also having an impact towards high school and middle school students while being a college student. So finding that balance is a little tricky, but at the same time, when you have a calling or purpose, you have the drive to do it.
Michael, did you say your major?
Yeah, computer engineering.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Hi, I'm Xiomara. I don't have a major right now, but I'm currently working at a plant pathology lab and I'm doing my internship this summer. And
yeah, you're great. Awesome. So like I said, we're going to hear a little bit about their experience with the Juntos program. And so to kick it off, my first question to you two is, how did you get connected to Juntos 4-H?
Initially, my mom forced me to go. It was not really much of an option. I performed very poorly the year before that I joined Juntos, and I didn't really take the club seriously because I didn't know that there was a club actually looking out for Hispanics. So I thought it was a joke. But then later on, when I got involved in the program and started seeing that I was being more intentional with school, I was being more intentional with the program. Yeah, I started to enjoy the program and the community that was part of it. So then over time, I grew to love being part of it and taking up being proud that I was Hispanic, because I think that there was a really big conflict in that at that time as well.
I forced my mom to be a part of the program. I didn't have to be forced into it. And it was more about always being in a PWI and being the only Latina in the classroom and seeing an organization full of Latinos who share my culture and my same experiences with the family. And it made me enjoy the program, and I could, all the workshops we did were important and actually useful, which I enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I love, Michael, what you said about just being proud of being Latino, which I feel can just be a very challenging thing. A Latino going through their educational experience here in the United States, we're dealing with being bicultural and dealing with one culture at home and one culture at school. So that's a big reality for our population. Awesome. So our next question for you two is, how pivotal was Juntos 4-H in your academic journey and your personal growth?
The year after that I didn't perform so well, they opened my eyes to basically see, all right, so let's see how you can challenge yourself this time, because it's clear that you didn't really challenge yourself last time. Let's refocus yourself, because now if you want these goals, and you're going to have to do these actions. So then I started taking up more honors classes, And by the time that I got into high school, I signed up for AP classes. Now the thing is the rigor. Not everybody it may not be their cup of tea, but the thing is it's part of the journey and it's part of the process to get to where you want to be. But it also, Juntos also even allowed me to push myself to do even other opportunities that I could do alongside with my education, such as public speaking, or even just like mentoring other people along the way, or even helping out as a community. So that's something that was really pivotal towards my education into getting into NC State.
Those helped me grow as a leader, and by that I mean I would do more for my community. I would do a food drive under Juntos, and I would get other people who needed Juntos into the club organization, even if it was later into their high school academic career, so they could graduate and do better academically.
And Xiomara, you were the president of the Juntos
Yes.
program in your school, right? How was that experience for you?
It was stressful trying to make sure we all got what we needed to do, but I made sure to talk to everybody in the organization. Like all the kids, even if they were younger than me, like 3 or 4 years younger than me, I made sure to talk to everybody. So if they needed help, I could help them. Or if they didn't have time to make a meeting, I'd be like, hey, this is what you missed. Or this is what you need to do. Or, hey, we have this weekend.
Awesome. So our next question for you two is, what about Juntos supports the Latino first generation student in general?
So being first gen and like my parents being immigrants, they don't really know the pathway to get into college. They don't know the education system here in America like too well, or it's not really as familiar as our education system back home. So we having the Juntos program, they had these things called like family nights where they would explain like what is FAFSA, what are platforms to apply for college, how would you apply for college, essays, scholarships. So when they would break the process down, then the whole family and the student would have like a better vision of like, all right, this is what I need to do, like once I get home or once I have free time, once I'm doing my homework. So that really did like show me like the opportunities ahead and like how to tackle them. But also Juntos definitely provided like a voice for the Hispanic community at the high school level, mainly because sometimes it feels like our community may not be as heard as compared to other communities. So there was like one example that Juntos was able to create like a book that allowed the students to be authors about their experience and their education and what they're going to be tackling on in the future. And it's crazy to see that a lot of them has definitely went into the places where they're actually like going into, but probably with the same struggles, but they're still overcoming them better than what they did before.
How about you, Xiomara? What about Juntos supports the Latino first generation student?
Taking a little bit of what Michael said, it's the essays and learning how to handle FAFSA. Even if my mom didn't understand how to do the FAFSA, she would give me all the help she could, giving me the information I needed. And then my coordinator, Jessica Aguilar, would help me put that information in or help me write my personal statement, make sure to get that little personal touch so that I got to where I needed to be.
I think a big point that's mentioned here, especially Michael, with what you were saying, is access. You were provided access, and being able to bridge the gap between the lack of knowledge that your parents had, and being able to break it down into steps. Because the reality is, yeah, like even my own parents, they don't know what the process is like, and we've had to figure it out on our own. And with the Juntos program, bridging that gap, it's crucial. So thank you for sharing that. All right, and so our last question for you two is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And where do you see Juntos 4-H in 10 years?
Where I see myself is like being in computer engineering. I definitely want to, ideally, I would like to start my own engineering firm into developing more like technologies and softwares that help develop more smart cities. I believe that the way that cities have been like the way that they have been planned or the way that they have been designed, I feel like we kind of need to escape like our histories past, and like when it comes like to discriminatory policies and planning, or whether it comes like the traffic. I definitely want to pave the way towards like creating new cities and also like prospering and developing new ways so we can have a higher quality of life. And as for Juntos, I'll basically like to see how like it will expand to even more states, but also for even more programming in those states. And with those programming that they have their own summer academies where each of those programs have like a land grant university where they can stay for a week and have a college experience, like the way that I experienced it at summer academy at NC State, that inspired me to go into NC State. So hopefully it can inspire others through that experience to get that 4-year education as well.
Excellent. How about you, Xiomara? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? We know that's a long time. And where do you see the program in 10 years?
In 10 years, I see myself being a doctor, either in medicine or maybe a PhD, I don't know. And Juntos, I'd love to see Juntos in every single state in the US. And like what Michael said, a land grant university in each state would be amazing, so everybody could have their own summer academy, but also just being able to have a proper communication way for all of those states so that they're not just all alone in their own states.
And Xiomara, what interested in you in wanting to become a doctor?
Well, with my own personal stuff with Kenny at Summer Academy, I saw Kenny Murillo. He was a Honduran and he got into med school at UNC Chapel Hill. And I'm Honduran, and I was so excited to see somebody who comes from my culture, to see somebody who kind of looks like me doing something I'd really love to do. And it made me believe that, I can also do that.
I love the just the things you mentioned about wanting to, yes, have your personal success, but always remember to like give back and bring our community with us, bringing them up. And that's such a powerful thing. And like I said last time, you are already doing that by being a work study student, working for the program that helped you move up. You are already giving back and making lots of change. So thank you for sharing that. I think, Deanna, I don't know if you want me to pass it to you or do you want me to continue sharing?
No, thank you for leading that. I think, Xiomara, do you want to talk about, since we're in extension and ag science, do you want to talk about your family's history with making cheese just for fun for a little bit?
Yes. Nobody in Juntos really knew that my family made cuajada, which is curdled cheese, until my last summer academy during the talent show. I shared my personal statement and how my grandmother and my grandfather made cheese until he passed away. And then my mom decided to start up making it here in the US after like 25 years of not making it in the family, so that she could make money for my sister and I to support us.
Awesome, thank you.
Now I'm working at a plant pathology lab.
And it's all going to come together. You'll see all those experiences. All right. Well, now I just want to hear from Abby and Bianca, who are a part of our team here, and they do different elements that make Juntos successful each year. So Abby, do you want to start? And then we'll let Bianca in.
Yeah, so just a little of my story, and I'll try not to take too long because last time I went over. Again, so I, growing up, I didn't have a lot of the information and knowledge that the Juntos program provided. I never had a program that kind of led the way for me to figure it out. I kind of had to figure it out myself. The first summer camp I ever went to was when I was in college. And I was the team captain at the summer academy back in 2014. And working with Juntos was such a, I think, pivotal thing for my life. I studied biology in undergrad. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but now I'm trying to become a social worker. And at the time, I didn't know that Juntos would have that influence on me, but it did. But I think what stood out to me working with Juntos throughout these years is just, its commitment and passion to really seeing the Latino community get the information they need to make informed decisions on where they want to go in their life. And I think it's important to continue investing in programs like this because the Latino community, we continue to grow in this nation. We're the largest minority in the United States, and you know, our community is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and we need leaders that look like us. And the reality is we need programs that can bridge the gap that exists with knowledge and education on how the U.S. educational system works. We can't be passive. We have to be proactive because this change is coming and it's already happening. And so Juntos has continued to inspire me to stay connected to my community. Even now in grad school, I'm still working with the Latino community. I'm actually here at a high school that's predominantly BIPOC. So yeah, I encourage, anyone on this call, if you have, influence in big circles to really don't forget our community. And if you're able to speak even for our community and be advocates, be an ally, that's a powerful thing. So.
Thanks, Abby. So my journey with Juntos began back in 2012 as the coordinator in Wayne County, which is a very rural county here in North Carolina. I had plans to be the female Indiana Jones after I finished my undergrad, but it seemed that education kept coming back to me and kept becoming a focus for me. And I grew up with a mother who was a teacher, so I was fortunate enough to have someone who was connected to the system and who was able to kind of help and guide me along. But I knew, obviously, for many of our students and families who are new to this country, it is a complex system, and it's something that, even for those of us who grow up in it, often are not aware of all the procedures and the ways that things must be done in order to be successful. So coming into Juntos, I knew that information was power and knowledge was power, and that was something that I wanted to help with and pass on to future students. So when I was a coordinator there in Wayne County, it was super important for us to form really strong partnerships, of course, with our extension personnel, such as our FNEP programs, FCS agents, 21st century after school programming. And through that, through all those partnerships, we were able to build a consistent and strong engagement with those youth and families in that county. I myself worked very closely with the FCS agent to reach parents and on her behalf, younger children, while I targeted the older siblings. And through that, we were able to not necessarily double our work, but to join forces and work and meet all of these students and families together. As a coordinator, I was able to share information with students and parents that enabled them to consider all their options and realize all the possibilities. And I was fortunate enough to have a student graduate high school with a full ride scholarship to a four-year university while I was a coordinator there. And those parents and student both attributed that success to the knowledge that they gained from being in the Juntos program. And, I want to point out, Xiomara pointed out earlier that her coordinator provided information to her and her parents, and it made an impact. And this coordinator was like a bridge to the school system and them, and making sure that they were getting all the resources and information so that they could make the best decision for what was going to work for them and their family. I do want to point out, when thinking about working with our Latino youth and families, making sure that we're making these environments inclusive, right? So as an example, in Catawba County, which is a county here in North Carolina in the western part of the state, we have a super strong bond where the 4-H agent and program assistant often are at our family nights. They are at our club meetings. They're providing support to that coordinator as far as making sure that they're aware of all the 4-H opportunities that are, or extension opportunities that are happening. But they decided recently, we had some Juntos 4-H students who attended their achievement night, and their awards were presented in Spanish. So just thinking about, something so simple as that, is making sure that our families and students, can attend events like that and feel like they are included in everything, and they're able to understand everything that's going on because we're considering their language, we're considering their culture. As far as what I hope for in the future and what my role is with this program, I work in growing and maintaining partnerships here in North Carolina, and I also meet with our coordinators individually and as a group monthly, and the information that we share with the Latino families and youth in this state and the other states where we implement it could be vital to any first generation population. And I see this program growing to be an example and guide of how to reach new populations within the extension system.
Thank you, Bianca. So now I want to give Dr. Scott Reed an opportunity to share why he invested as a leader in extension in his state, beautiful state of Oregon, why he chose to invest in Juntos. And that is really what it takes in order for this program to not just survive, but thrive. To be able to see folks that are really invested in seeing programs like this just go beyond the limits of what we thought we were starting, right? As you know, you saw the map, there's 13 other states outside of North Carolina that are implementing. And so Oregon was one of the first. Actually, Oregon was the first. And so Dr. Scott Reed, I'll give you some time.
Thank you, Dinah. I should also say, since retiring in 2019, I've worked with the Extension Foundation along with several other former directors as what we call catalysts. And we have the opportunity to advise and counsel early stage, high potential extension projects. And this is the second year that the foundation has worked with Juntos. And the focus this year is on scaling. And so among the purposes of today's conversation is to help provide sort of the background and priorities and the return on investment that many of us see for investing in Juntos. And as Diana suggested, I've always believed in the principle that if you value something, you invest in it. And the Oregon story began when I, as the extension director, was approached by a couple of county commissioners. And they described to me their struggle to move students through the educational systems in their counties. And as you likely know, county commissioners are very key to our ability to keep local county extension offices open. And these commissioners correctly observed that the pathways were bumpy for students in their communities. K-12, community colleges, higher education were each different systems. They didn't talk to each other very effectively, and students were having trouble making the transitions in order to be successful in those pathways. So without criticizing our very successful 4-H program, they pointed out to me the lack of equity and equal opportunity for limited resource and distinctive communities that are not in the privileged dominant class. So that convinced me that it was important to convene a larger conversation. And I did that in cooperation with the Association of Oregon Counties and invited in some visionaries to help diagnose the issues and maybe some possible solutions. That led to the creation of what we call Oregon Open Campus. Now, Open Campus established education councils in each county, and councils were very different than the typical extension advisory committees, because advisory committees help to provide support and encouragement to existing programs. Extension councils had K-12 community colleges, public libraries, universities, the business community, all engaged at looking forward. And as a result of those conversations, the emphasis became on college access, including transfer student support, degree completion, and culturally relevant programs. And this is where we discovered the Juntos program created by North Carolina State, and it was perfect in order to be replicated in Oregon. Now, it doesn't work exactly the same, but it is fundamentally the same. And it now operates in 34 communities in 2/3 of our Oregon counties. We have served about 6,000 6th to 12th graders and their families who've experienced 90% high school graduation and college going rates. those are outcomes that were never before seen in Oregon. So since 2012, we have been and will continue, I'm sure, because the leadership of Extension in Oregon continues to believe strongly in this concept of open campus, including Juntos. So that's the Oregon story, Diana. I think now we go into reactions, questions, and comments.
Yeah, I know we had a few people drop off, but if anyone else wants to chime in, any questions that you have for the Juntos team?
I've got a few questions. My name is Nick McCarty. I'm from New Mexico State University, a state 4-H agent. And what does it take to start the Juntos program? What does it look like? Just kind of the logistics and the practical part of how I'm sold on the value of it and the importance of it. Just how do we get something rolling?
Yeah, great question. So I think, one of the things that you really, your community, it's building partners around this idea of starting Juntos in your community who have a passion for it, for the community that you're going to serve, and who are willing to invest. And that may take bringing people together and having multiple conversations, right, around what it would look like to bring Juntos 4-H to your state, and particularly to those communities that you think it would bring the most value to. So for us, I think that the key in North Carolina, and I know it's the same for other states, is really building your team so you're not doing it by yourself, because that can be very daunting. Juntos is a lot. It's more than a curriculum. I tell people you can't just look at a curriculum and expect to be able to do it. Every community looks different, even though you're serving the same population, right? And so knowing that you have people that are committed and have the time to, and they know they're part of the piece, so the puzzle of bringing it together. So for states that have, folks that are interested in implementing Juntos within the land grant extension system, you can connect with me and we'll have a conversation where I will do a presentation to really talk through what is Juntos, how does it work, and what it would look like for it to be in New Mexico. At that point, you all would decide whether this is a good fit for your state. And then we'll talk about training. And so the way the training works is basically North Carolina does train the team and whoever you want at the table. You can either come to a national training in North Carolina, or we can schedule one in your state. And so once that happens, it's a 3-day training for all 4 components of the program. If you want to focus in on family engagement and 4-H clubs, which are the 2 components you have to implement in order to call yourself Juntos 4-H. So once you're trained, the lead team that's taken the program forward, they become their state's trainers, right? Train the trainer kind of idea, right? Then you've got your team that will continue to grow that progression of others that want to be trained to implement the program. So that's really what it looks like. I think just thinking through who is willing to invest, who are your partners? Is it the school system? Maybe not at first. They were the first ones to invest in Juntos in North Carolina. I'll have to say that. Now we've got the community college. We have a community college in Wake County, North Carolina, that's actually funding a full-time position for Juntos coordinator, right? So that's sustainability for us. We've got school systems that provide a certain percentage of time for a staff member, some of our schools have family liaisons who are bilingual, speak Spanish. And so 20% of their time goes into implementing the program in their schools, right? So there's a lot of different models, and Oregon has, a model where they have a coordinator that's an extension employee who supports the implementation of the program within that partnership of the schools, community college, and university. We'll go through those examples at the training. So that's, I hope I answered a little bit of your question, but I know it's a big one, but that's usually how it works. And then we do have a national network of those states. And so we provide a series of resources throughout the year that will support a whole package of resources that we engage with each team throughout each month, and for the whole year.
Diane, if I could, I'd just add a few reflections. And I think the national network is a great place to go and think of a support system new. But another thing I would encourage you to consider, so it's not just you pushing something, new in New Mexico, is to convene and share the development energy of giving Juntos a try. And our experiences in Oregon were that if you can include the Latinx community voices, educational leaders, community leaders, and your extension director, there's some pretty great things that can happen from that community and conversation. Now, there's no extension director more committed to youth development and 4-H than yours, John Boren. He makes lots of contributions to youth development, in the nation. And so I would encourage you to find a way to convene the voices that will support this idea, and then pilot something and watch it. Because our experience was, if you put something on the ground in one community, it will begin to attract attention elsewhere, and pretty soon you'll find it easy to replicate elsewhere.
Thank you. Couple of follow-up questions on your. So all of these are school clubs, correct? Do I understand that correctly?
I would say a majority of them do happen after school. Some of them do happen during school. I myself, when I was a coordinator, because of my connections with the Extension Center, I actually would hold them at the Extension Center. But it's definitely up to what works best for your partners and the students and families that you're working with, right? Because transportation is often an issue, which is why school makes sense most of the time.
Is there a coordinator or a 4-H agent for each club at the school? Does each grade level have their own club?
So we focus on 8th through 12th graders. Those are the grade levels that we reach. And within each county, we do rely on that local county 4-H agent to be that person who's supporting as far as 4-H and extension support. And then within our different counties, we have coordinators who will serve specific schools. We don't have any counties where we are serving all of the schools within that county. So we have a coordinator who might be serving 2 schools, and we focus on a specific number of students. So, and sometimes it depends on grants and what funds we have and how many we can serve. But for example, within Catawba County, we're at a middle school and a high school, so we can follow those 8th graders from the middle school as they go into their high school experience and continue on. So we, in that specific district, we serve 60 students within the middle and the high school. One coordinator does that, and they're not necessarily a full-time staff person, but it's definitely a part-time. But we have different ways of supplementing that role. It could be someone within the school system who's looking for an extra stipend or some extra work, or it could be I know migrant education is a big partner of ours as well, so we have a migrant teacher or a family engagement coordinator who may be using some of their school time or their schoolwork to do the Juntos work within their schools. But we also do, because of some grants that we have, we're able to hire some people as a part-time staff member to actually conduct the club meetings and the family nights.
Is grant funding a significant part of your funding for Juntos?
At this time, I would say yes, absolutely, it is.
So I would add to that, it is in North Carolina. Again, there's true investment that's going on in other states, and there's examples of how that's happening. So Dr. Reed talked a little bit about the investment that Extension made along with the community college system in Oregon, right? And that was financial investment. And then we are also seeing investment within the 4-H programs, leadership programs, state at the university level in other states as well. The 4-H Foundation, specifically in Purdue University, has gotten very involved and has been able to get particular funding for Juntos based on what funders want to fund. So funders are wanting to fund these types of programs. And so it takes, again, it takes a village, right? It takes us really connecting with those the development team in our universities to have those real conversations about how this program can be successful and that we need to look for investors.
Again, I would.
I'll let somebody, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doug.
I just suggest, Newt, I didn't emphasize enough, I think, the role and value of community colleges. So don't underestimate their ability to invest. In Oregon, there's a community college for every 2 counties. So they are local, educationally focused institutions. And historically, we haven't worked with them a great deal. Juntos has opened the door to co-hiring folks. So we have actually a number of our Juntos coordinators who are actually officed in the community colleges and paid partly university and part community college, because both systems, have a lot to gain from it.
What has been your most successful approach as far as when you're reaching out to schools or educators to get the program in their schools?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So educators came to Extension to us because they heard about the program. So that's how we really got connected to that system, and specifically build relationships with superintendents and principals. So your question is really how do you engage that community? I think really being intentional about the conferences that they go to, where they're getting some professional development, and you being able to do a presentation on what Extension does and engage them in a conversation on how you can be part of their solutions in many ways. Their strategic plans, depending on each school, is to see everybody graduate, specifically a population that they might not be seeing. So when we think about how we meet their goals, it's a sell, right, for them. It's a natural sell. But it is, I say all that, but it is a process to develop trust and a relationship with each school system. We require MOUs with the partnerships that we develop with school systems, which allow us to have clear understanding of the data that we're going to need, the fact that we do need transcripts in order to see the progression in our students. And some school systems have major guidelines around that and who sees, right? And so because of the fact that we have to show impact in order to get refunded, there's a lot of guidelines, IRB, all that process that we have to take on as we say yes to Juntos 4-H in certain communities, for sure. Good question.